Welcome to the Sally O'Neill podcast, where I get to be your clinical nutritionist for a quick snippet of time and take you through evidence-based topics and tools to help you reach your goals faster and more sustainably than ever before. I take nutritional science and convert it from lab to life to save you the headache. Now, my mission is to empower you with the juicy bits of my nutrition degree and experience in clinical practice so you can become the scientist of your own body, build a beautiful relationship with food and exercise, and then hopefully fire me because you're utterly self-sufficient with it. Now, this work is part of my educational role I use with my clients on my coaching platform, Status 80/20. And if you resonate with any of this content, I'll add all my links in the show notes. Now, today, instead of the usual educational topic, we are introducing one of my very, very good friends, Action Alexa, or Alexa Towersey. If you haven't come across Alexa's work yet, she is a strength coach, an adventure athlete, a mental health advocate, and a soon-to-be author. Now, as one of her best mates, I've had the privilege of reading the first few chapters. I'm so excited for the launch. Her goal is to help you build physical and mental resilience. She has a Bachelor of Science in Biology and Psychology, correct? She's had years of experience on the gym floor and is one of media's authorities in the go-to in fitness. I probably missed a few things there, Alexa. Please tell us the long list of things. You also have a post-grad diploma in...
Sports management and
Sports
kinesiology.
Management and kinesiology. I actually learned about the kinesiology part more recently than I would have liked because we've been friends for over 10 years. So
it's a little bit woo-woo.
No, it's not woo-woo. It's great. You are so overqualified. It's unreal. I first met Alexa, so full disclosure, when you were I got a Facebook reminder about this. It was incredible.
10 years ago or something?
It's been 10 years. I love it how it does it was actually a nice reminder because sometimes they're not always nice. But we got a lovely reminder that we've been friends for over 10 years. So we were training in Hyde Park in the middle of Sydney. That's where we did our training session.
Hyde Park?
Yeah, we had a training session in Hyde Park.
In Hyde Park?
Yeah.
What was I doing in Hyde Park?
I'm unsure.
I'm unsure too.
We were outside. It wasn't COVID. It must have been for some reason. We're going to dive into that. But we're kind of changing. This is so fun. You're the first person we get to change the strategy of the podcast with. So rather than it being educational, we're kind of going to use it as a bit of full disclosure. And I have pre-warned you, but more like a nutrition consult so people can get an idea of what to expect in a nutrition consult. But also, if you haven't seen Alexa's physique, good Lord, please go check out her Instagram. She's at Action Alexa. That I am always in awe based on, obviously, we're going to talk about your diet and your exercise, but I feel like it's something you built a long time ago and you've managed to maintain for a significant period of time, which is amazing. And are we allowed to ask how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 45 this year.
Yay! That means we've got a big birthday to celebrate. But
we do.
I can't wait. But for a 45-year-old woman, the physique that you have maintained is phenomenal. And it feels, from knowing you for this long, that you've done it without too much thought and obsession and overtraining and weird about your diet. There has been very, very few conversations in the millions that we've had in the time we've known each other where you've been like, I must go and do a run or a walk, or I overate last night and I feel awful. You've never felt guilty or said anything that would flag to me, there's, not a good relationship with food or body here, which is incredible. And I hear those literally every day from clients. So the fact that this is partly why I wanted you to be the first guest on this kind of topic, because you've obviously got an amazing balance with food and exercise, and we all want to learn from you. So with that being said, have I hyped you up enough?
You've hyped
I love
me up
you
a
so
lot.
much.
I feel like there's a lot to live up to now.
We love you though. So what we're going to do is we'll treat this like a nutrition consult, but I want to understand, first of all, your morning routine, which I know is slightly triggering for Alexa because she hates morning routines, but how do you normally start your day? And then we'll tap into diet and supplements as we move through.
Cool. As you said, I fucking hate morning routines.
I know. I love this about you though.
Honestly, I think, look, part of me wants to rebel against the social media idea of you need to have a morning routine to have a great life and be productive, because I don't have a morning routine and I have a great life and I am productive. And I think that just comes down to being able to make decisions.
Yeah.
My morning routine at the moment is I have a cat. She wakes me up at 5:43 a.m. every morning. And I did Google as to why she does this. And apparently this is prime hunting time. She wants her family to be involved in her hunting time. So we go and have an adventure on the balcony and get up and hang out. And you know what the fun fact is about that is that the cat's purr, I thought this was awesome. I think it's between like 25 and 50 hertz. And that is a healing frequency. So it's been shown to like heal fractures.
That is wild.
Isn't that wild? And it also, like patting a cat releases oxytocin. And what better way to start the morning than with something that is calm, inducing, and gives you that feeling of connection. So for me, like getting to hang out with her, and I know I sound like a crazy cat lady, but it's the best way to start.
You are a crazy cat lady. That's all right. I'm crazy puppy lady. So we're equals.
There you go. So, I mean, I love it. So look, she probably starts my day before I would like to.
Sure.
But
so what time is that? 5:45?
5:43 to be precise.
Specific, very specific. But what time, if you were left to your own devices, what time would you love to get up? Are you like a sleeping in kind of gal, or do you like to wake up with the birds?
Look, it's changed over time. So, I mean, I've been doing a coaching job now since my 20s, full time. And I used to start, my first client was at 5 a.m. So I had years of having to get up at 4 a.m. and then not getting to bed until like 9. So now that I'm sort of in the later stages of my career and I'm sort of doing more work outside of the gym, I like to have my sleep-ins. You know, like I really love a lazy morning. And when I say lazy, I'm usually up by 6:30, but I like having that extra time in bed. And there is a little bit of doom scrolling that goes on. And, no, I don't do a gratitude journal, and I don't do a fucking ice bath, and I don't wake up and say some affirmations, and I don't do any of the things that social media.
Do you do lemon water and stuff, love?
I don't do fucking lemon water either. And like, I understand, I understand the benefits of all of these things. Yeah. I get, when I first ran challenges, I used to tell all of my clients to have some form of cold shower in the morning, whether it's 30 seconds at the end of a warm shower just to wake up and get the physical and the psychological benefits from that, or whether it was like a full-on working up to a 2-minute cold shower. Because I understand, like I said, I understand the benefits of them, but I get so frustrated because there is so much out there that tells you that if you don't do these things, you're going to lead a less than stellar life. And I just don't believe that's true.
I think there's a lot of pressure on people as well to, people have got a 9 to 5. They need to be putting their effort into work and into the relationships and into the family time and into the kids and do 10 million workouts a week and get the steps in and drink the water and follow a diet. And it's like, how do you then wake up at 5 a.m. and follow another 15 steps before your day has even begun without feeling overwhelmed, stressed, adding more panic to your day? It's like, it actually just feels so unrealistic unless you're a 20-year-old shredded influencer who doesn't have a 9 to 5, right? Which is what we see a lot of, with all due respect. And they're very inspiring. And if you can take like a snippet of what they want from you, fair. But I think it's really important to keep perspective on a morning routine. So I love that yours is time with a cat. You don't jump straight onto your mobile phone to scroll. You're not.
Well, I do. But
I'm okay do you?
That. I do. And you know what?
What are you scrolling on? Is it news, cat videos? Like, what are we looking at?
I mean, look, my algorithm, I'm going to be honest, my video at the moment is like, there's a lot of cat videos on there.
I get so many forwarded to me from you. I love it.
Yeah, no, I know. What else do I have on there? I have a lot of shark attacks on there at the moment, which is, I have a morbid fascination with it. But look, I do that for a little bit, but I know I know what the limit is. Like, I know the time that I have to get up by in order to get to my first client. And I have, with any decision that I have to make, once I've made the decision, I have this thing where I just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
And on the 1, I'm out of bed.
Yeah, we were speaking about this in the car over, right? It's like a Mel Robbins thing, if anybody's interested. I actually can't remember the full, like what she's called it, but it's
probably called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There we go. But smart. Because she's obviously like really popular at the moment because she's just done a book called Let Them, and everyone's obsessed with it, and it's kind of like letting people do what they want and you just like accepting them for it, which is really lovely. Yeah. It takes a lot of mental pressure off. But her book prior to that was it was talking to that method of like when you're procrastinating over something or you're laid in bed and you're feeling really unmotivated, the countdown to launch essentially is what gets her to action things, which I think is a really great way of doing it.
It absolutely works. But I think you've also got to know what the decision is, and you've got to be on board with making the decision. Yeah. So once I know what my decision is and that it absolutely has to happen, that's generally my tactic to get out of bed. And like,
You missed your morning coffee because I
enjoy-
always get a text message from you. Coffee?
Oh, I know. Well, I get that on the way to work, and I do. I have like coffee is life. Anyone that tells me differently, you can't trust people who don't have coffee. But look, I think my whole thing with morning routines is fix the rest of your life first, because this is really the 1%ers.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of my clients that I work with, predominantly they're all females at the top of their game, and pretty much not one of them has a really structured morning routine. The only time I really had a structured morning routine, I've had 2 occasions in my life. One was during COVID, when I found that having something to do first thing in the morning and having a routine sort of really set me up with having a purpose for the day. And I used to do like a 10-minute meditation every morning through Headspace. And I loved it when I had the time for it.
Yeah.
And then when I was in the jungle for my first Naked and Afraid experience, I was like, oh my God, I can actually wake up with the sun. I can get sunlight on my eyes. I can go for a dip in the cold water. Things that I don't have to go out of my way to spend money or find extra time to go and do all the things, because you can have an incredibly fulfilling life without it if you learn to master all the other basics in your life.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's so refreshing to hear someone who has such a like an incredible outlook on life, right? But also just like such a healthy body, for someone to be like, no, I don't ice bath every morning. No, I don't drink lemon water to get my digestion going, blah, blah. Because I think people focus, as you were saying, on the things that are really 1%ers, if effective at all, truly. We know, we won't go into it now, but we know that ice baths specifically are not particularly amazing for women. We know they're not amazing after training. For male or female, because it stunts inflammation, which at any other time would sound great. But when you're trying to grow muscle, it's actually part of the repair process. So it doesn't help with gains. We know all this stuff. So I think it's so important to just take a really measured view. What actually fits into a morning? If it's kids and chaos, that's what it can be. 100%. You can still have a healthy body. You can still take care of your diet. You can do all the stuff that's the 80% stuff that matters and let the other stuff go.
And you know what? If there's one thing that you need to do for your good morning routine is get a good sleep, because that is where your morning routine starts. So if you're not even doing that,
forget the rest. Agree. How many hours a night do you get?
Not enough, because I've been an insomniac since I was 15. So look, one of the things that served me very well in my life is that I've always been relatively good at coping with stress, especially the kind of stress that comes from lack of sleep. I definitely don't handle it as well as I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I can go 3 or 4 days on very, very, very little sleep.
I'm going to challenge you on this as your best friend, but also as your nutritionist for the next hour, which I know is really annoying. And because I have been in your shoes, and I've definitely been in the position where I'm like, I can survive fine. I function fine on like 4 or 5 hours. I went through a whole phase of having really terrible sleep for quite a period of time. And it was actually when I had an eating disorder, because I was so underfueled that I literally couldn't drop off to sleep, because I was having no carbohydrates and a million other things. But what I challenge people on is generally what happens when people don't have enough sleep is they learn to be adapted to it, but it's not optimal, right? We know that.
We know this.
So you can adapt to it, but the difference it makes, like, sure, you can get by, but getting by and thriving and feeling optimal and having, you excluded, having optimal body composition, Alexa's a freak of nature, then you like, it's so imperative for people to get sleep. And for hunger signaling, right? It's so important for hunger signaling. Your body does not adapt to that. You don't adapt and go, oh no, my body's less hungry because I've underslept for 15 nights in a row. It continues to be extra hungry. So those are really important things to pay attention to, regardless of whether you feel like you're surviving.
Oh, look, I mean, when I say, literally have had insomnia, I went through a phase in Hong Kong. A lot of my, I guess, stress around sleep came from there, and I ended up in a position, it was from overtraining. So when I quit alcohol, it's like 16 years this year.
So good.
But I used fitness to do that, and I was training for half Ironman, and I was in this repetitive cycle of, training, doing a full-time job, training, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a day, depending on my race schedule, having a relationship, and having to fit in everything in between. And I ended up on this cycle of like, I couldn't get to sleep because I was so wired at night. that I would take a sleeping pill, and in the morning I would have to take an upper or a coffee to wake me up. And I just ended up in this, God, it was just this
uppers
vicious
and downers.
just this vicious cycle. And I was incredibly unhealthy. I ended up having to go and see a doctor about it because my body was just in all sorts, and I was getting injured all the time and I wasn't coping emotionally. I was very reactive. And I ended up having to give up coffee for 6 months, and they ended up putting me on ginseng tea to support my adrenals.
Oh, beautiful.
Which was really interesting. And I did it, and it was kind of like the withdrawals were nasty at first, but I did end up figuring out how to get a better routine.
System.
So I have been in that, and I definitely recognize that sleep is one area of my life that is definitely not ideal.
Sure.
I'm lucky that I have also managed to organize my life around my sleep so that I don't get overwhelmed. So my work-life balance is such that if I'm so tired in the morning from having a shitty night's sleep, I know that I have enough time in the afternoon to have a nap.
I was going to say you're a napper.
I am a napper.
I feel like that makes a big difference.
Huge.
Excuse me. It makes a big difference for people who can't sleep.
Huge.
It's like there's I'm trying to think of the name of it, non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR, that certainly Dr. Huberman's spoken about in the past, where you can, even if you don't fall asleep, because this is the problem I have, is like I lay down and then I panic that I'm like, I'm forcing a nap.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to sleep, blah, blah, blah. And then my brain starts ticking over. Whereas if you accept that you can actually just lay there with your eye closed and let your body rest, that
100%.
can be as beneficial. And you can listen, there's free things on YouTube, and I'll try and add in the show notes as well. If you just go onto YouTube and type in NSDR protocol, there'll be, I think, 10 or 15 that come up, and you can listen to them for free and just put them on in the background, where you can literally just let your body relax, and it still has the same impact as sleep. So in a really short amount of time. So I think that's one thing that you're doing incredibly well. Yay,
Well,
you.
That's the thing with life though, right? Life, you can aim for as perfect of a life as you want. Shit's never going to go to plan.
So
and it's
true.
really just about learning how to manage that. And it's about, well, if I can't do this, what can I do to make that slightly better? If I can't eat this, what can I do to make this slightly better? It's just listening to your body and then coming up with alternative strategies.
And I think that is part of your resilience training though, babe, is that when you'll literally have shit hit the fan, for want of a better term. And you rather than go into panic mode and spiral, you're like, what's the solution here? And like, how do we pivot?
Yeah.
And you are very outcome focused. And I think it serves you so well. So like if something rubbish happens, or something, you break a leg and it's meant to be, you're not out of training for 6 weeks. You will come up with something wild that still means that you can do all of the things you've always done, right? Like we had the hip injury, like there's been a hip replacement, I should say. Like you've still managed to maintain a physique through a hip replacement. Like it's, you always, regardless of the situation, bounce back. And I think that's amazing about your mental health, is that you don't see things as setbacks, it's just redirection, which I think is a really valuable skill. And that 80-20 mindset of like, I'm going to do my best most of the time, and there's going to be moments when I can't do my what is considered my best, but then I will pivot and I'll come up with an alternative solution to still get halfway there.
Absolutely.
Which is amazing. You never sit there and spiral and go, I ate a full Rolo bar, which we're going to come on to. And then get into a really terrible mindset of like, well, now I'm only going to eat Rolo bars because I've screwed it up, right? You don't operate like that. And I think that's certainly what I teach with my clients, is the approach of, we need to do the best with the resources and situation that we're in, and anything beyond that is outside of our control. But you can always still try to do your best. You don't have to throw in the towel. No. So you're an absolute master at this, and I learned so much from you just from observation and osmosis at the coffee shop every morning. So without further ado, I actually want to hear the full day on a plate for Alexa Towersey, please, because of course we all want an 8-pack like you. Can you walk me through, pretending you're a client, from waking up, including caffeine, right through to bed, what a normal day on your plate looks like?
Okay, so just to clarify, we want real life, real honest truth, and we don't want what influencers put out on social media.
Correct. We want real Alexa. And half of it you can't lie about, because I see this.
I was going to say,
most days.
There is no lying. Okay. All right. So I wake up at 5:43 because my cat's out and we might go and sit and get some sunshine together. the first thing that I put in my mouth in the morning is probably black coffee. And
How many shots, please?
A lot. I have 3 to 4 shots in my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Full disclosure, I did not know that an Americano or a long black had that many shots in it when I was initially ordering it. It wasn't until I actually watched someone make it that I understood what was happening.
See, as your nutritionist for a hot moment, I would love to say to you, and I know you won't, that's fine. I'm doing this from, like, we're optimizing and nitpicking here, right? I'm all for having plenty of coffee. I think it's great. It's got antioxidants we love. Right. But, and it obviously, as you would know, as an athlete, it improves performance significantly, right?
Yeah.
We need to cycle it though, if we are going to do that, because you become adapted and then you end up needing having 4 shots like Alexa does. However, I would be like cycling off a little bit for you and doing 2 shots. And then if your coffee shop is really adaptable, which ours is, because I change my coffee shop order every day.
Yeah, you do.
It's a running joke in the coffee shop. Then I would be doing half decaf. If you need it stronger tasting, half decaf, half calf. So like just say to them, can I have 2 shots of decaf coffee and 2 shots of full calf? Or just doing a 2-shot long black.
Look, I don't hate that idea at all. I think, to be honest with you, coffee for me now is more of a placebo. So it's more of a routine. I don't feel like my morning has begun without my coffee. And I don't actually know whether it would matter whether I had decaf.
I think this is a good test for you, Mrs. Resilience.
Well, there we go. I will test it out and we will test the theory.
Report back.
I used to have dandelion tea because it tasted like coffee.
Yeah.
And that used to be a replacement in my little keep cup. So,
I would recommend that to anyone, actually. It's actually a really great topic. So dandelion tea, for anybody who hasn't tried it, and you can attest to this, because coming from a nutritionist, people are like, sure, it sounds foul. But it actually doesn't taste like tea, does it? It's a roasted dandelion root.
So you can taste the roast.
The roastiness tastes like a roasted bean to me.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't taste like grass.
Right. And then normally any green tea, or like any herbal tea, I should say, you don't normally add milk or sugar, right?
No.
But to a dandelion, because it's a black tea, essentially, or tastes like a black tea, you can add milk if you're that kind of gal. I add milk and stevia to mine.
Okay.
2 to 3 cups are therapeutic for your liver clearance. It also is a slight diuretic, obviously, because you need to make sure that you're keeping your water uptake up. But it can also loosen your stool. So if you struggle with constipation, I will get people to take 2 to 3 cups of dandelion tea a day, and it just softens things up without causing explosive problems.
I used to have it whenever I had a shoot coming up.
Oh.
2 or 3 times a day to help with water retention.
Yeah, exactly that. There you go. And to get the bowels moving, right, as well, to keep it lean down there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because you don't want to go running on the morning if you haven't cleaned out your bowels yet, because let me tell you, it's not fun.
Oh, not fun at all. We love bowel chat. It's my favorite kind of chat. So we've had, let's say I'm setting you the coffee challenge. Yeah. However, let's say you've had your 4 shots. What then? Are you going to work? Have you had no food?
No food. Okay. I go to work. So I have my first client, and then after my first client is when I will go and have breakfast.
Yeah. And what's breakfast normally?
So it flips between one of 2 things. I'm actually very carbohydrate and sugar
fats?
tolerant. So I might have in the morning, my first choice of breakfast would be like fruits with granola and yogurt. Love it. It's normally out at a coffee shop because I normally get it where I'm near work. I don't take it with me. I know I could, but I don't.
She's not a meal prepper, guys.
I'm not a meal prepper.
Well,
I will talk about that though, because there are certain things that I do with my foods to make my life more convenient because I know I don't prep.
Yeah. But in saying that, your Greek yogurt, granola and fruit, yes, it's carb heavy, granola and fruit being the carbohydrate elements, and probably some fat in the granola from the oil that it's baked in or the nuts that are in there, whatever's in there. But the yogurt itself will have a dose of protein. Yeah. So it's probably, if it's like the one from the coffee shop, it's going to be like slightly higher fat. It's not going to be like the Chobani or the YoPro, low fat, high protein, etc. But you will be getting a bit of protein from that. But you are a medical marvel. The amount of protein that you consume, and we've spoken about this in the past, is minimal. I always say to my clients, and this is me telling you what to do again, is 25 to 30 grams of protein. And you'd say this to your clients as well, interestingly.
I don't get your recommendations on a daily basis at all.
Yeah, but 25 to 30 grams of protein in a morning, ideally through a savory source, because it helps manage blood sugar levels throughout the day. And it actually helps you eat less at night, which a lot of people say, oh, I had a really small, like, sweet breakfast. And then they overeat all night, like they're grazing all night watching TV. If you change to a decent sized savory breakfast, it kind of eradicates a lot of that. So I love that you're the medical marvel that doesn't have to do this. However, so you're getting some protein. The option 2 is
eggs, avocado, and mushrooms.
Love.
Yeah.
With toast?
No, I don't get toast.
Interesting.
Yeah. But you know, the interesting thing with this is that eggs and myself don't do very well if I eat a lot of them.
Well.
No, I don't. I get a lot of water retention. I get a lot of bloating. And I feel quite heavy. And this is the reason I don't eat a lot of protein. It's why I'm always such a huge fan of advocating for individuality and learning to listen to your body, because my body does not like really high protein. It doesn't do well on it. I don't feel great on it. But when I eat carbs and sugars, my body actually performs really well. So I'm probably one of those, I'm the exception, I'm not the rule. Yeah. You know?
I think you really are the exception. But I will also say that if I had an athlete under my care, carbohydrates are one of them, alongside protein. It's a huge focus because it is the source of energy that we require. So if you are performing at a certain level, you can't expect to work without any kind of sugar fuel. We need it. It fuels performance.
100%.
And you train. So we'll get onto it, but I want to talk through what your training regime looks like as well, because it probably makes a bit more sense with the carbohydrate intake. However, let's say you've had, so how often are you having the eggs if you react to them? Couple of times a week?
Yeah. Max. Yeah.
Do you notice when you have a sweet versus a savory brekkie that there's any difference or not?
No, not at all. And it's interesting because I remember going to a Poliquin seminar once and he talks about the whole breakfast, and he brought up this study that was based on like whether you had a savory or a sweet breakfast in the morning in terms of what it does to your taste receptors and then what you want to eat for the rest of the day. And it was a Harvard study, and it was like—
Has he been stealing my ideas? I wonder.
He has.
Oh, wow.
I think he did. I think he stole a lot of them. And, you know, he basically said that like the people who, the whole long and short of it, the people who had the savory breakfast in the morning, when they went to a buffet later on in the day, they picked savory options. The people who had the sweet breakfast in the morning went to the buffet and they went for all the sweet options.
So it sets you up for the preference for the day.
For the rest of the day.
Which again, that's fine if it sets you up for sweet preference, but then generally human beings, and maybe you don't fit into the normal category.
I'm not a human.
She's amazing. What we find that, like, if generally speaking, is humans can really, really overeat sweet food without feeling the sensation of fullness. Or we feel it and we just push through, right? Whereas savory stuff, generally speaking, if it's not a cheese board or like something really moreish, if it's like steak and eggs, no one's going to continue to eat like 6 plates of steak and eggs. It is very difficult to consume savory food to excess.
Yeah.
Unless it's hyper processed and hyper salty and hyper fatty, which is like, you know, chips and Pringles, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But even then, I feel like there's a lower limit than there would be on, say, chocolate, for example.
100%.
Oreos, cookies, all that good stuff. So it's interesting that you got taught that stuff from Poliquin.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, look, what I eat is not what I would tell my clients to eat. I mean, look, and I'm very honest and open about my diet. I've been weight training for a long period of time, and I think the fact that I started weight training when I was 15 has really set me up.
You started early.
I did, and I think the muscle mass that I have now, like, people are always surprised at how flexible my diet is and how lax I am with it and how little protein I eat for muscle mass that I have.
It's phenomenal.
And I think that comes back to like start in the weights room early, because this is what weights can do for you.
Don't set us all up to cry about it, because what if there's ladies out there listening and like, I haven't started yet?
It's never too late.
As a trainer though, who trains ladies in that age category, right? Like between, I guess, not all of them, but 20s to 50s predominantly.
Probably 35s to 55s, I would say.
Cool. You would understand the importance of strength training in that age category, right? For perimenopause. And we literally did a presentation on this, and you were telling some really interesting facts about injury and bone density and falls and fractures and how important it is for metabolism, because we know metabolism kind of changes. Well, the drop in estrogen changes a lot of things for us as women.
Yeah.
So you can appreciate, regardless of whether you started early, it is still very, very important. Even if you're 50 and you haven't lifted a weight in your life.
It's one of the most important things that you can do for longevity, 100%. And coming back to your status on protein, that is also incredibly, incredibly important. And that's why that I know that I have inconsistencies in my diet. I'm very well aware of it. But it's also why I have life insurance. I have an insurance policy that is a really good protein powder and a really good greens powder, that when I know that I'm not doing as well on my diet as I should be, that I can switch these into rotation and top up the stores.
I think that's so smart. Again, that's your resilience, it's kind of like, it's a strategy, and it's a backup plan.
It is a backup
Worst
plan.
case scenario, which you've done an incredible job at. So talk us through lunch. So we've got brekkie.
Lunch. So normally, look, I try and make my life as easy as possible. And like I said, a lot of my clients, sort of those high-performing females, I want to set up for success. I'm exactly the same. I'm not a big meal prepper. I'm not a great cook. And I don't really want to make fucking time for it. And, that's okay though. I know this. I'm not sitting there saying that I'm too busy for this. I'm choosing not to do it. And that's okay. So I'll go to the supermarket on the way home from work and I might grab a roast chicken.
Do you buy food every day?
Probably every second or third day, depending on what I feel like.
Sure.
But it's usually the same kind of staples. And the two things that I really revert to are like a roast chicken. I've always got some sort of mince in my freezer. So I love lamb, kangaroo, and beef. Those are my three that I really enjoy. And Naked and Afraid was the big thing that got me into having more protein than I normally would have, in terms of just it accelerated my recovery tenfold.
I feel like I need to pause you there, because we should frame this with the fact that you did Naked and Afraid, which is an American TV show predominantly aired on Discovery Channel.
Yeah.
Alexa has now done it twice, which is I'm sorry, one and a bit that's about to come out. But you've done an incredible, do you want to explain what it is? Just like a top line overview, because it's actually insane to me that you did this.
The premise is that two people, usually a male and a female, are dumped out in a really unforgiving landscape with no food, no water, no shelter, no fire, not even the clothes on their back. And they are just filmed surviving for 21 days. And you've got to come up with your own strategies for making it through. Generally speaking, there is also very, very, very little food.
So I picked you up from the airport first run, and you arrived how many kilos lighter after 21 days?
After 21 days, I think I dropped 10 kgs.
So there was collarbones very visible.
Yeah.
Like, I have never seen you looking that scarily slim.
Yeah, I was very skinny.
In the 10 years I've known you. Like, it was concerning. And then we were speaking about this in the car ride over, that there was almost like a rebound effect, which was very biologically driven. That was like, my body is craving food and nutrients right now.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but uncontrollable. But it felt very like, this is not my normal eating pattern. The volume that you needed to eat to get your body back to like homeostasis was significantly more than normal.
It was. My body went in completely the opposite direction. And I put on more weight than I lost, and which I think is typical of yo-yo dieting. That is what happens. My body was really just adapting to try and survive. It was so terrified that I was going to be put in a position of starvation again, that it did everything it could not to go down that path.
But isn't that like an amazing kind of demonstration in a very concentrated format of what actually happens when we yo-yo diet, right? Because it's like the body goes into freak out mode of, I don't have enough to perform basic function.
Yeah.
And then when you're exposed to food, and people do this on a 24-hour basis where they don't have enough breakfast, and then it gets to nighttime, as we've spoken about, and they're like, oh, there's food available.
Yeah.
And now I've lost some willpower and I'm tired and I'm on the couch and I'm a bit bored, or I'm emotional or whatever, I'm fatigued. Now I'm going to reach for all the yummy snacky bits, right? And it leads to this overeating. Or on a weekend, right? They restrict all week because they're in the office and it's easy and they're distracted.
Yeah.
And then on a weekend,
the binge
everything
eating.
the binging comes out, whether it's alcohol, whether it's food, whether it's, I went out to a wedding and I had 8 pieces of cake because it was just there. If you eat, and not that you could have done in this scenario, but if you eat in a regular fashion with a normal amount of good proteins, fats, and carbohydrates that are good quality throughout the day, and you feed your body and you fuel it in a way that's appropriate for your body, then generally speaking, the binging desire will diminish.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like, back in my day when I was growing up and going to the gym, and I was far more restrictive than I am now, because I did subscribe to a lot of the fad diets around there. I was doing bikini competitions. Everything was very, very, very extreme. And a thing called the Body for Life came out. And one of the things that they sort of encouraged you to do was during the week, you don't eat any treats. And then you write down everything that you wanted to eat during that week. And then on Sunday or your weekend day, you could have whatever was on that list. And that is what I did.
Wow, what a weird process.
It was a very weird process.
Disordered way of working with food.
It was a very disordered. However, what I would generally find is that because I had so many treats on this list, I would never get through them all.
Yeah,
so it actually wasn't, in the whole scheme of things, it actually worked relatively well in terms of, I thought I wanted to eat all these things, but then when it got to it, I actually couldn't eat them all. So I never ended up doing it anyway, but it made me feel like I could if I wanted to.
The option's there.
The option was there if I wanted it.
Which is what I try and give my clients, is like the option is always there. Like we can build chocolate into your diet every single day if that's something you crave. But it's,
again, strategies.
Absolutely.
What are your...
It's like exposure therapy. And then you honestly, the supply and demand model says that if you have it every single day, the desire for it will disappear.
Because you always want what you can't have.
Absolutely.
And for me, I wanted Rolo bars, king size Rolo bars every single day. And
Yum.
So I had them.
And so she did. And so
she wanted to follow her dreams.
She began on a Rolo, on a Rolo binge. And I was getting text messages, I think, by the end of it where you were like, I actually think I need a moment to stop now because I'm back to my weight, if not then some. Yeah. And I think the tides need to turn. And
I think I put on like an extra 3 kgs on the back of that. And I was like, all right, time to rein it in. Time to stop. But I think I'd also eaten so much that I couldn't really look at them again. I was like, okay, I've eaten way too much.
Exposure therapy, that's perfect.
Yeah, so no, it was good.
So let's say you've got your rotisserie chicken or your mince in the fridge. Are you having veggies or usually avocado?
Avocado is probably my go-to.
Yum.
So chicken, avocado, if I've got some, sometimes I'll throw in some feta cheese and some cherry tomatoes. And then I just have I very much like picking foods and putting them together.
Yeah.
I don't really have
food
a structured
assembly.
plate. Yeah, I love food assembly.
Yeah.
Or even hummus and carrots. So that's how I would do my food. It's never really like a meal.
Cool. Yeah.
It's like
elements,
mix and match of stuff.
Elements of things on a plate. Yeah. That's exactly how that I'm a nutritionist, people seem to think that I'm going to be cooking a home lasagna and meal prepping. I absolutely am not. I'm too busy. And
that's the thing with what I say to all my clients is if nutrition is your limiting factor, and if that's the thing that you find stressful and you're never going to meal prep, set yourself up for success and order pre-made meals if that's what you have to do, because then you know that they're there and you know that they're going to fit your macros or whatever approach that you have.
Absolutely. And the rotisserie chicken is the perfect example of that. It's a shortcut that still means you're getting your protein in. It's still yummy. You don't have to worry about cooking it yourself. You can probably eat from it for a few days. It's the perfect solution. I think it's great. So we've got an overview of lunch. Are you having a snack in the afternoon?
If I have a snack in the afternoon, it's usually, at the moment, my go-to snack is an apple, and I'll have half with cottage cheese and half with peanut butter.
Do you know there's a shortage of cottage cheese in Australia?
Yeah, because I've been into 3 supermarkets to find them. So yes, I do know.
I ordered it online and I got ricotta. Excuse me?
Yeah.
I got ricotta as a replacement. I'm like, to be fair, it's white and it's high protein, but still not the point.
No, I know.
Anyway,
wild.
Disappointing. Stupid influencers posting about cottage cheese all the time. And then, okay, so afternoon snack's good, high protein. So you're going for peanut butter?
I mean, I know that's probably the most inflammatory of the nuts that I could have. I should probably do almond butter, but I just really love peanut butter. Fun fact, I'd never actually had peanut butter until I started doing Half Ironman. It was the first time I'd ever hired a nutritionist, and they gave me, as part of my nutrition plan, I had to have 2 tablespoons of peanut butter a day because I was on so many calories. And I got so addicted to peanut butter that I started eating a whole tub of Skippies really crunchy
Skippies
peanut
is not
butter.
even the good one. Like if we're going to do peanut butter, guys, please pick the 100% natural. There is so many brands out there now. But the Skippies one, I've had it recently.
Yeah.
I think I was at a hotel and they gave me like a packet of it or something. You know, when it comes in like the little container.
Yeah.
And I had it and I was like, worst case scenario, like flexible dieting, don't care. It's not a big deal. This amount is not going to hurt me. But I can taste the like granular sugar that they've added into it.
It is very
and the
sugary.
oil, like the way it coated my mouth. I'm like, this is not normal peanut butter to me.
See, I like it.
I mean,
but
you
anyway,
can like it, but it's like it's so different to natural peanut butter. Like it's quite different.
It is.
But I've been there where I've eaten jars of peanut butter in the past and been like, wow,
that's the thing with
addictive.
fats though. And that was one of the first things I realized about any of the nut butters or anything. I mean, it goes for anything really. You can have something that's inherently healthy.
But you can overeat
of it. And nut butters are one of those things that it's like what I call a domino food.
Yeah.
It's so easy to eat that you start off at 2 tablespoons and then you end up at the whole time. I ended up not eating it again. It started giving me hives. Every time I ate it, I ate so much of it, I developed an intolerance and my body would react. So I only just started eating it again last year.
We're going to talk about your gut health after you've told us about dinner because I want to talk about the supplement that you took before you went away.
Yeah.
So talk me through what dinner looks like normally.
So the second thing that I do for convenience is I really love the John West meals.
Yeah,
and they're either salmon with some form of like carbohydrate like rice or I don't think they do
pasta,
rice or some sort of pasta.
Yeah.
Some sort of pasta. And then or tuna, the same thing with tuna. So what I'll do is I'll get a container of that and then I will add like asparagus, bok choy, mushrooms.
Good girl, getting greens in.
Yeah, peppers, zucchini, add that in, put it all into a fry pan.
Yep.
Put them all in with a little bit of butter.
Yum.
Fry it all up and I'll have that and that will be my dinner. If I've got a tuna one, I might get a supplementary can of tuna and just tip it in there.
Add it in.
Just for the extra. And that's how I would structure my meal because I love it. It tastes great and I feel like I'm getting everything that I need to without feeling like I'm missing out on anything.
Yeah, and the love it part is also really key because it helps with adherence,
100%.
right? No one's sitting down going, I really want to eat konjac noodles and low-calorie sauce and thinking this is a delicious meal.
Yeah.
And therefore, in a week's time, you're going to want to eat a massive pile of pizza because of it. So being really smart about what do I actually enjoy and how do I incorporate it into my day-to-day food is so important. I love that you do that.
But also for me, having something that I love for dinner takes away the urge to eat something
I was going to ask
naughty
for dessert.
So at the moment, I haven't been doing it.
Amazing.
Because I actually really enjoy my dinner and my dinner I'm actually not feeling the urge. And I have this thing now. I used to be, if you put anything sweet in front of me, like any chocolate dish, or I was at a restaurant and there was any dessert on offer, I'd always order it or eat it just because it was there. I have this rule now that if I don't 150% want it, I won't eat it.
Yeah.
So
I know you've actually bought stuff in the past and had a bite of it and then gone, oh, I'm done.
Don't like it.
And then put it away. And I'm like, whoa, this is really odd. Like you can bite into a very large cookie and be like, don't enjoy it and put it back, which 100%. Is incredible.
Yeah.
So now we've got to the end of that. We're going to have to wrap up because we've just waffled on for so long.
Oh my God.
However, I do want to ask just really quickly about your supplementation regime because I think your diet, by the way, from feedback from Best Friend, feedback is great diet. Would love just a few more cups of veggies, but we already know that. Less coffee. But other than that, really great. Like truly balanced, organized. Like, of course, I would love you to have some more protein. And maybe a little bit of variety because your gut health loves that. But we also are creatures of habit and I completely understand. So talk me through your supplement regime at the moment. You don't have to give brand names if you don't want, but just tell us kind of what you take and why. And I'll give you a bit of feedback and then we'll have to wrap it up. So sad.
Look, to be honest, I've never really been a person that's taken a lot of supplements in life. I just don't enjoy having extra things that I have to do. But there's 2 reasons I've taken them. One is for extreme
experiences,
athletic endeavors.
Of which there are many in Alexa's life.
I mean, we'll look at Naked and Afraid as a prime example.
Yes.
Because colostrum was one of the supplements. I asked you how I would go about protecting my gut and my immune health for such an extreme event. Your first suggestion to me was colostrum because of the protection or the building up of the gut lining. And I took that and not once have I'd had 0 gut issues and I got sick 0 times out of the things that I've done. And
which is phenomenal.
The amount of stress that my body was under, the resilience that it had, but also bolstered by that. Like that was a game changer for me.
So do you still take the colostrum because you had such a good impact? Okay, I love that.
Definitely had less sick days.
So I tell people to take it for, because obviously your gut is obviously really associated with immunity, but the amount of people that will say, oh, I've got barley belly, or I've gone to India and like Delhi belly, same story. If you go overseas and you ever want to, I have like a real fear of going to Bali because I hate vomit.
Yeah.
Like, you know this about me. But every single time I've been to Bali, and now I would say it's maybe 7 or 8 times, I've taken something called Travelan, which is the brand name of the pills of colostrum, just because they're convenient. And you take it as you're eating the meal at the same time, so it goes down with the food.
Oh, yeah.
And it stops, I'm going to get the stats completely incorrect, but it's around something like 93 to 97% effective against E. coli attaching to the bacteria attaching to the intestinal wall, which is what causes obviously you then getting really sick. So it stops the adherence of the bacteria, which is incredible. And I've never been sick, touch wood. I've never actually been sick while I've been in those countries that have like really poor sanitary conditions, or like we just don't cope with their environments. So the fact that you've like eaten snails and bugs and like, I can't even begin to think about the random things that you've had to put in your mouth. Truly. The colostrum, but the colostrum has been a game changer for you, which I rate. I love that. So aside from colostrum and gut health, what else do you take?
Creatine. Like my water bottle, and I know people are going to come at me for having a plastic water bottle with bloody fluoride in the water from the tap water, and then eating it with my meals, which is going to dilute my stomach acid. Whatever, water is water is water. I have in my water every day, I have a pinch of salt.
Yes.
I have a scoop of creatine, so my 5 grams of creatine, and I have some collagen powder.
Brilliant.
And a lot of my supplementation has come about because I'm getting older. I'm in those ages of perimenopause. I need collagen. I need creatine. I have my protein powder as my insurance policy, same as my greens. And salt for my electrolytes and for making sure that I don't dehydrate, because you actually need salt.
I love that.
For water absorption. So that is my water bottle every single day.
Brilliant. We were saying that like I think creatine's got a bit of a flavor, so I would need to take it in a flavored drink to hide it. But I love that you just raw dog it. You just don't care.
I think I drink black coffee every day. So, you know, 4 shots of
loves
it.
Bitter foods.
Loves bitter foods, loves weird tasting water.
You're fine with it. I mean, maybe you've got a problem with your taste buds. Who knows? But the creatine, like I've actually done a whole other podcast, if anybody's interested on this, specifically about dosing, timing, outcomes, how it impacts brain health, how it impacts athletic performance, how it impacts recovery. I rate it to everyone. It's like one of my staples for most people. But
if you are a woman,
yes,
the one supplement that you should be taking, especially at our age, like the perimenopausal age group, is creatine.
Yeah.
You know, like there's, without a shadow of doubt, I got asked this question. I tagged you in my post the other day when someone asked me a question on my page. The one supplement I would always recommend is creatine. Yeah.
I would go magnesium first as the baseline supplement.
Yeah.
Then creatine.
Okay.
But I agree. The only reason I say that is because so many of us are deficient in magnesium, and it impacts a lot of perimenopausal symptoms as well.
I do take magnesium. That was my other ride or die, but actually more so because I started getting restless leg syndrome.
Smart.
When I was out in the jungle, and one of the primary signals for that is a magnesium deficiency. And once I started taking it, that went away.
Do you know what magnesium type it is? Like glycinate, citrate?
It's a glycinate.
Yeah. Which is really beautiful for sleep as well. So I'm pleased you're taking that to support your sleep. Yeah.
100%. And then I think my last ride or die supplement is for my iron, actually. So I don't eat a lot of red meat. I have struggled with anemia for a lot of my life. Like before I had my hip replacement, I actually had to have an iron infusion. My level, so I take a supplement. I used to take Ferrograd C because that's what everybody recommends, but it's not awesome for your gut.
Correct.
Then I got put onto a Cell Squared. It was like an organic beef, liver, and spleen supplement, and it's been an absolute game changer for me. It took my ferritin levels in my blood test from 13, which is like right on the bottom end, right before you actually don't have to pay for an infusion.
Yes, yeah.
to 97, which is the highest
Huge.
it's ever been.
Unreal.
And
you feel different?
Feel different. The first signs for me of iron deficiency, like when I know my iron levels are low as I do, my insomnia is way worse. My hands and feet get very, very cold. Yeah.
Hair loss?
And hair loss. So it's, that has been instrumental for me. And my energy levels throughout the day are much more stable when I'm on it. But I mean, I take the hairy pill now because obviously coming to perimenopause, one of the first symptoms that I got was that I lost half of my hair.
Yes.
So I'm on, I mean, I don't know if you'd consider it supplementation, but like I take
it's a
the
prescribed
hairy pill,
medication actually. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I take my
minoxidil.
I've got estrogel. So for me, like getting on, my symptoms for perimenopause were absolutely wild. And like everyone talks about the physical side of it a lot, and there are a ton of physical symptoms. But for me, the mental health side was even more
debilitating.
Yeah. I have never had anxiety or panic attacks or depressive episodes that lasted as long to the point where I couldn't go to work.
Yeah. And
for me, that's insane. And like I was reading some research the other day, and women between 40 to 44 have their suicide risk is 6 times higher.
Wow.
Because of these symptoms.
And so the symptoms have significantly improved for you with the estrogel, is that correct?
Huge. I don't get it. I like maybe once every couple of weeks or 3 or 4 weeks, I might get a couple of days where I'm sad.
Which is normal,
or
right?
Anxious.
Sure.
But no, it was an absolute
Amazing.
game changer. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us today. I'm so proud to call you a friend and to have experienced, like to hear your day on a plate, because I actually am really proud that you do such a great job at balancing normal life, normal routines for like the everyday woman. And still, we didn't get to talk about your training routine, but we'll get onto it another time. You're going to have to come back again. But I think it's so refreshing to hear such a realistic account of a normal day in someone's diet and someone's routine. So thank you for sharing that with us all and making us feel a little bit more normal. We love that. For anybody who wants to touch base with Alexa for whatever reason, whether it's a strength coach program, which by the way are amazing, or whether it's just to ask her questions, I will put all her links in the show notes as well. But on Instagram, Action Alexa, that's where you normally hang out. Anywhere else that I need to mention?
Nah, just slide into my DMs.
Slide in. We love it. Okay, guys, until next time, thank you so much.